So, welcome, Natalia. And I just would like to start by asking you, um, how are you and how is everything where you are at the moment? Where are you, first of all?
Oh, thank you very much. It's a great honor to be here with everyone. And I see a lot of people from Ukraine, from Uruguay, Spain, and many, many other countries. Thank you for devoting your time. And thank you, Alistair, for inviting me. That's a great honor as well. So this is my first, like a very, very big interview, and I'm honored. Well, I'm in Ukraine. I'm in my hometown, which is called Khmelnytsky. It's to the west of the country, closer West Central. And I might say that I'm happy I'm home. I have my home still. So, yeah, I'm here in my castle, as I say.
Okay, thank you. And well, the big question to start with, how are things where you are at the moment?
Um, well, we all know that Ukraine is at war, and I might say that we continue living, and it's not safe anywhere, but nevertheless, we try to find those beautiful, tiny little moments and places where we can be safe. And it's relatively hard. On the other hand, we try to find joy in very small, tiny little things, like talking to everyone here to see familiar faces, new faces. Just having coffee in the morning with my family, who I can still see. And yes, a lot of good things happen, and together with some vital moments as well. But we live, we have to, and there is no other choice. So I might say everything is okay.
Thank you, Natalia. Obviously, you really don't have to say that everything's okay if it's not, of course.
Okay.
Like none of us do. Like none of us do. Listen, to start off, because there's many questions that I've got to ask you, and I'd like to invite, as this interview goes on, everyone who's in the Zoom room to please feel free as the interview goes on to ask Natalia whatever questions you would like to, and I will field those to her. What I'd like to do first, though, Natalia, is ask you a little bit about yourself, because I've just read part of your bio data to everybody. And apart from being a teacher trainer, which of course is one of your big connections with me and with this interview, obviously, you work for an NGO and it provides tactical combat casualty care, medical evacuation, and emergency medical care. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, that's absolutely new world for me because I'm educator and I'm a teacher of English, to be honest. Despite being teacher trainer and exam trainer, we are linguists. We are people who deal with children, adults, and language in a very, very friendly environment for teachers. But with the advent of war in my country, like we were all lost and we didn't know like what to do because in fact like one day you wake up and you cannot go to work and teach, like you cannot run your business, you cannot do anything. And I was asked to interpret a beautiful person whose name is Luke Scully, who came to Khmelnytsky to assess the situation, and he was one of the representatives of Global Response Management, the NGO who I volunteered first, and after that they kindly helped asked me to work with them, and I was very honored. And what I do logistics because in every country you need to have a person who's local there. And in Ukraine, it happened to me. So from being an interpreter, just as a volunteer helping medical, it was medical English. I started to be a person who organized trips, events, communication with doctors, hospitals, and that's absolutely new for me. And it was and it is a good thing for me to be a learner now because I learn a lot of things, how to organize a visit of a surgical group or tactical for example, casualty care, the whole course, a training program which was run by GRM, like Global Response Management in Ukraine. And what we did, we educated how to help soldiers, wounded people. I mean, we can work on with civilians, but territorial defense, those civilian units, volunteers from church, you will be surprised they go to the front line and evacuate people from there. And we teach and taught how to put a tourniquet on, how to pack the wound, how to put the splint on. Now I know all kinds of tourniquets, which are in Ukraine, which are not in Ukraine, how to deliver them, what to do, what kind of gauzes are there, what types of, I don't know, occlusive dressings we have. And also, when we started, like there are several programs and medical evacuation. Now I know all the types of ambulances which exist in the world, which work in Ukraine. Types of different kind of doctors who again are involved here. What is the situation, real situation in the East? How can we help? How world community, especially NGOs, help Ukraine? And to be honest, it's just a fantastic job. It's not job, it's a vocation, because we see every day how we change the situation, not by speaking, but by doing. These people come, they sacrifice their time, their maybe life, hopefully, like not, and I think it won't happen, but nevertheless, they understand the threats and they come here. And my job is to make them safe, to organize everything, to arrange a lot of things for them. And I'm a very tiny little person in that huge NGO, but I may say that this is when you feel that you make difference, and it's important. It keeps me not lost, and it's important. And that is the reason I do not teach now, but now I learn due to English, and it's important.
Wow, thank you. So the next question I'm going to ask you is, with your originally with your teaching background, how has the war influenced you and your teaching?
Well, that's a tough question, I think,
Mm.
for everyone, because we have a lot of educators here, a lot of teachers, a lot of tutors, teacher trainers. Because, like, first several months of war, when it started, we still tried to run lessons. Because since I'm a head of language schools, it means that my task as the person who runs it was not to put into this situation where my teachers have no job because they need something to live for. On the other hand, I wanted to keep sanity, like to keep them sane, not to um, lose themselves in this flood of events, terrible news, like being lost. They needed to find this island of stability. And I said, like, we do not cancel lessons. We work to the last student. We we do the following. We keep teaching for free for everyone. If there is one student from a group, there should be a lesson. And as for topics, that was the biggest problem because you cannot talk about traveling when, for example, the house nearby is shelled by a rocket. You cannot talk about dreams of a student, like first month of war, when he doesn't know whether he's gonna wake up tomorrow or not. That is the thing is that we tried to just listen. We shared our emotions, and I said to my teachers and to my staff, and I did it. We talk about our fears. We talk about that we are tired. We talk about that we are exhausted emotionally, that we are adults, but we don't know what to do as well. That we are in the same situation, on the same page with our students. Because if you say that it's okay, let's learn gerund today, passive voice. Really? Like they don't need it because their school doesn't exist now. Like they don't have school, they don't go there. And that was the moment when I understood that we just let it go. And we became such kind of like, English psychologists. That it turned into like speaking club for everyone. And now the school is working. Now we are actually running summer camp in Khmelnytsky, and we were surprised that we have students. And teachers, we lost several of those teachers due to the reason that they just stopped teaching and moved another country. But for everyone else, we teach online and we teach offline if the student wants to come. And I might say that it influenced a lot because from being just simple teachers teaching according to curriculum, it's not the same. So if we see that the student is crying today and is not in the mood to have a lesson, we may just watch a video and it's okay. So this educational process turned into like my schools into this club of support where parents, for example, can devote 1 hour of their kids to be with us. Yes, we are still learning and teaching them and learning from them, that learning their emotions, how to deal with this. But parents have time, 1 hour at least, for themselves. And it's important as well. It's like a daycare because it's not for money now, it's not for business now, it's not for educational purposes now, it's not for Cambridge exams now, because predominant part, since we are Cambridge Prep Center, exam center, these were exams prep. Like they do not like exist now in Ukraine, only abroad, and not of the kids can go abroad. So we just switched it. And now we teach according their needs. Yes, there is a background of learning, but nevertheless, it's not that pushy. It's not that, straightforward, like according to curriculum only, no. So we are trying to be very flexible to them, and it helps. So we didn't lose a lot of our students. This is the first. The second, we have new ones, and we have a lot of positive feedback from parents because they said that thank you very much that you kept running lessons even from bomb shelters because that was like this stability, like something left the same, stayed the same, not everything changed. So yeah, that was a difficult decision to make, but we made it. And I have my team and students and we're all safe now.
So one of the things that you've just said that's really just struck me is the fact that there was, I'll put it this way, there was an invasion and you made the decision to not to stop the classes. Despite that, you're going to carry on.
Yes.
Because I can imagine another situation, I don't know where else, and perhaps with other professions where people might say, well, there's an invasion. Okay, that's it. We're going to stop doing what we're doing. But you, and not only you, obviously, you, your teachers, etc. Was that like a collective decision or how did that work?
Yes. I did the following, like it was we resumed lessons as far as I remember in 3 or 4 days after the invasion, after the war started, because yeah, we closed all of our offline premises, but we were all online. And I talked to my team and I said, like, my decision is we teach. If you decide that you cannot do that emotionally, please tell it to me. And I explained them the same thing as reasonable thing as like if we have time, we are alive, we are educators, and we are not just teachers of English. We are those people whose familiar faces our kids see every day, even twice a week. But this is something which is there to support. We cried together, we argued, we discussed with students and with the team all of the moments, and that was the great circle of emotional support. For example, if a teacher needed to move, we have several teachers who are abroad. That was decision of their family. They said like, I can resume lessons in 2 weeks. It's like sure, and we said it to our parents and class and groups like, okay, so you're gonna have either to wait, or for example, we will have a substitute for you. That's also fine. And a lot of parents said like, oh, I'm so sorry. Can you have a record of this lesson because we are currently under on our way to the border. We said like, okay, sure. So we were very flexible. It was just to show that there is something from the previous life left. And it worked. It was very difficult, but again, it's always very easy to give up. It's like, okay, that's it. Yes, let's stay home. Still, everyone is home. Still, everyone's using their phones. Still, everyone is using Wi Fi, internet. So instead of reading news, let's just have some learning or at least distract a bit. And it worked. So, and my team supported me. That's why they are my family.
And I know we talked about some questions at the beginning, but something that you've just said I want to touch on now. So what you were doing then when you started teaching in this different way was going with what the students wanted, is in what they wanted to talk about. It became like I think the way you phrased it was like I'm going to badly paraphrase you, but you said something like a speaking club, for example, and that's and it reminds me of something that Irena Sushko said when I interviewed her a couple of weeks back about dogme teaching, as in teaching with would you say it's a bit like that?
That was absolutely doggy, because again, you never knew, like, you always go and get some, I don't know, idea of a lesson you're about to have according to a previous lesson. We all know it. But in this situation, for example, we see that, let it be today, there is a revision, but we see that the half of the group is not there. Half of the group is not really ready. We didn't give any home test to them. And half of the group is just lost. For example, we had the situation, especially with teenagers, when their friends were in Kharkiv and all other regions, and some of their friends died or were very badly injured, and they were not in the mood. So we always thanked everyone that they came to the class. It's important. And then we started clear speaking club, dogme. We talked, okay, so it was clear improvising of everything which was on the lesson. Still, it was there because um, we, like, as for my speaking, like, as for my lessons which were left, I always started like with 5 or 10 minutes of just what's going on there, because we said first and kept saying that don't trust news, or like, they are there for us to support, but what's going on actually in the place where you are? That was the question. You started the interview with me, and everyone was telling something, sharing, and they started with this, and that was beautiful because they let go their emotions, they spoke out, and then we started with dogme. Sometimes it had only 10 minutes of time of the lesson left, and it was also okay. Sometimes we had a full lesson. For example, no, everyone was okay. There was no shelling, for example, not like negative news, less of those. And that was just a good regular lesson. It seemed like if everything is okay. If someone had an air raid alert and he needed to like switch off, that was also okay. It became, I know that it's not normal, but it became normal. So we just switched on the recording and the lesson went on. And if the student wanted to look it through, he looked it through. If not, not, because there was no home test. So, but they came back every time with, like, this idea that they will find out something new, and there is no, like, the end point for them to learn more, like, not learn more, but to prepare for it. So no, our state exam cancelled in English, Cambridge exams, there was no purpose for them, but we created artificial purpose that they need to come and share. So, like, we put that hook. Okay, I need to come and speak out, and then we may learn something. That was in English, half Ukrainian. Sometimes it was half of a lesson really in Ukrainian with using English words. So it wasn't like pure, I don't know, TBL approach or TTT approach or anything. That was a total mix, and is a total mix of all approaches, just to make the student use the language for its clear purpose to communicate.
Mm. Do you feel like that's been helpful? I'm going to use the word therapeutic, which sounds awful, but you know what I mean. Do you feel like that's been helpful for them?
100% sure. I'm always in favor that teacher is not just a teacher. A teacher is a psychologist. A teacher is a therapist. A teacher is the person who anticipates not only like the problems which might occur during the lesson. A teacher is the person who feels the student. You may call it a very good word, rapport. If you have it with the student and with your group, then you are a teacher for them. Because teacher is not the title you get, not the profession. This is a vocation. And if you are like this, then yes. If not, and withdrawing from a curriculum or not teaching according to a lesson framework drives you crazy, then it means that's not you. This is not the thing you have to do during your life. Because teaching is not for money. Teaching is for raising the generation. And if you cannot share here, as the war showed, something which is inside of you with the students, and then like teaching present simple or causative forms will not make any difference.
Thank you. I have nothing to add to what you've just said. That was beautiful, what you've just said. But I will ask you. No, it's very interesting. A couple of years ago, in an interview with with the great Adrian Underhill, I remember him saying, "Yeah, I know. Tell me about it." I remember he said, "The student's job is to learn the language. Your job, the teacher, is to learn the students," and that's kind of in some kind of a way similar to what you've said. Okay, I'm going to ask you. In some ways you've already answered this question, but, and I will, by the way, for everyone's benefit, I will get to the questions that are in the chat box, all of them. Please don't worry, everyone. I will get there. What was the most serious difficulty in teaching at the beginning of the war that you had?
That was emotional aspect because, as I said, like when you are a teacher, right? We all know it. When you have problems in your family or anything, like a good professional, you never come and like show it to your students, like because this is not the purpose of a lesson. You need to teach to show that everything is okay. You are a role model in a classroom. So usually, yes, your students mirror you. Your way of talk, manner of like acting yourself, if you are like on the same page with them, and that was difficult because when like I have dozens of phone calls of my friends who are going from east of the country asking me like whether I have a room at my house to stay, and in 10 minutes I'm having a lesson with teenagers, for example. They're not like 11th graders whose life is already being ruined because they don't know whether they're going to have a university to enter or not, or like whether this university is still not destroyed. And you have to go to the classroom and start it. The first 5 minutes were always a nightmare for me, to be honest, because I tried to keep myself not crying because I gave myself a word. Everyone knows, like, I will cry after the war. Yes, that's important because if I start, I am afraid that I won't stop. And on the other hand, I see my students like who had brilliant future, who used to have like absolutely amazing dreams, and I knew that they could fulfill them. And now I have to start saying that everything is okay, which is not. So that was the most important, like the most difficult thing. But then we started talking. We could speak like, I don't know, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And if we had topics, to be honest, with traveling, I just rephrased it and I said like, when this nightmare is over, when you gonna, where would you like to go? And you know what? The surprising thing was that everyone would go somewhere in Ukraine. That finally we would start explore our beautiful country. And surprisingly, as they became such huge patriots, all of the teachers from Ukraine, really, we know it. Like for teenagers, it's not something common to love their country because this is something very deep. It's a very difficult notion, even for adults to understand, to grasp. Yes, because it's not just one word, but they became so like Ukrainian. I was shocked. No one was afraid. They were frustrated. They were disappointed. They were petrified. But really, but they were not afraid to die. I know this is the word, and I know that this is a very sensitive thing. No one was afraid to stay here forever. They said, like, I don't want to flee. I have where to go, but that's not my home. Despite everything which was going on and is still, even those students who fled, and who are now not at home and temporarily displaced. They now surprisingly feel that they want to go home. They became so close knit with their friends. They have never texted that often to each other or asking like, "How are you?" In Ukraine, "How are you?" now doesn't mean like, "Hey, what's up?" That is the whole meaning. Like, "How are you?" And if there is a response to that, "How are you?" gosh, you are very happy. You are absolutely relieved
Mm.
for at least half of a day. And it's not just something to say that someone needs to feel sorry for us. No, we don't need it. It means that finally we students started to put meaning into the words they say. They feel deeply for everyone and they became more supportive. They became really a nation. And yes, this is how now dramatically to say that's a positive thing from what happened. Finally, they understood that we have a nation and it's beautiful.
That makes a lot of sense. It's very interesting. People are often, I've been living in Argentina for 15 years, and people often get very surprised, for example, that I've never been to Liverpool, for example. And but it's that kind of thing's very interesting, how in some way little one knows about one's own country, but something like this, like you say, in some kind of a strange way, there is some kind of positive side to it. And it's very interesting
Yeah,
what you're saying about how the focus was not, okay, let's everyone get out of Ukraine. On the contrary, it's people wanted to be in their home. And it reminds me of something that I'm going to mispronounce his name, but that President Zelensky said at the start of the invasion, when I think it was the US said, "Hey, let's get you out." And he said the famous quote, "I don't need a ride, I just need ammunition," which I thought was
yes,
amazing. Yeah. And very, very supportive for Ukrainians, obviously. Okay, let me ask you another question, because there's been many questions already that have come up in the chat box. The one I'm going to focus on is, however, this one. This one to begin with from Irena, which is, do you have support from your family with
yeah.
what you're doing?
Well, it's very difficult to be honest, because I'm always away. Like I'm practically not at home at all. Like I travel all over Ukraine. Now with my work, I might say that's my second vacation. I really enjoy it because I meet so many beautiful people. I meet so many great professionals. I might say that we may be proud of our doctors. We may be proud of our medical system. I know that we are Ukrainians and we may say something is not good. Believe me, if you see it from inside, like you would be surprised. Our surgeons, they are managing with so many challenges. Our nurses, our pediatricians, our psychologists, I don't know, all of the medical workers, starting from the very, very small one, finishing like heads of hospitals, they are working nonstop, 24/7. We don't see it on news, which I'm very disappointed. But they are heroes as well. So our armed forces, people who are behind the scenes, they don't need anything at all. They just need to work and they want to work. And they work tirelessly. I might say not 24/7, 28/7, 48/7. They barely sleep. And this is why we may say that Ukraine will never fall due to these people. As for my family, oh, it's been very tough because I'm never home. We're all emotional and they support me, but at the same time, I forgot that they need support as well. So, and that is the biggest threat. Yeah. On the other hand, I'm so yes. I don't know. I'm sorry. No, that was my son. He was looking for a
Hello,
tablet.
son.
Hello. You may say hello to everyone. You may say hello. Hey.
Hi. How are you?
Out. Go. Headphones. Go. Thank you. That's always like that. So
It's so sweet.
yeah, he needs his tablet. Yes, like war, not war. I'm sorry. But
You got to
tablet.
have your tablet. What are you going to do with that? I mean, come on, priorities.
Yes, that's true. And yeah, so they've been very supportive, very understandable, and understanding. But they say that I work too much, but I said like nothing changed. Before war, I worked a lot, and now I work a lot. But now I'm not at home. But they know
Hmm,
that you have to devote yourself to people.
indeed. Well, look, I'm going to focus us on another question now. Florencia Klarfeld has asked, everything you are doing is so valuable. Is there any record keeping for future reference and analysis? So I guess of, of what the way you're working
Doing,
now.
yeah, like in fact, that's not even for my working now, but because I might say that we taught, like as for training program, we taught more than 1,800 people, like it's 1,800 people, and gave them IFACs. We provided ultrasound butterflies to a lot of hospitals in Ukraine. Also, global response management did and is doing a lot of trainings to doctors. So, like, it's more hundreds of doctors who learn from our international colleagues, from international doctors with world name knowns. Also, we provide a lot of healthcare, and all of those reports go to WHO, World Health Organization. So because this is under their umbrella, we do, like I might say yes, a part of GRM, we do that great job. Also with a friend of mine, we started our own NGO or an education. So it's called Mad Ukraine. It's very young and fresh, but we were inspired by teaching purposes and educational purposes using English and medicine for Ukrainian doctors. So it's amazing. But I must say, as for global response management, that's an amazing job because these people devote not only to Ukraine their time, to Iraq, to Mexico, to all of the worldwide conflicts. And I might say that they are a great family for me now. And everyone who just hesitates whether NGOs work, they sacrifice their families' time, and they come here on volunteer basis and help Ukraine. And this is the example for us Ukrainians not to forget that once we were helped. So if I hope it never happens. Something happens in the world, we have no moral right just to say, okay, it's not here, because we rarely, and it's to everyone in the world, to from Argentina to Ukraine to UK to Portugal to Italy, we don't really care about problems of other people unless it is at home. Like hunger in India or Palestine or or other countries who are not that prosperous as we are, for example, lucky to be born in. We don't really care, and it's true. But once it happened in Ukraine, we want the world to help us, and it helps, and everyone helps. But tell me, please, before that, we just saw news, we felt very sorry, and that's it.
Hmm,
Yes, like we emotionally supported, but was not our like with no actions,
hmm,
and that is the biggest problem.
hmm,
So this is the lesson for us to be learned.
hmm,
We need to be supportive not only when we have problems,
hmm,
when everyone else, even with $1, even with a good post, or with finding someone who can know, someone who can help,
hmm,
just recommending someone, and it's brilliant. Because everyone said, like, as me being a teacher, we're teachers, usually we are very what? We're pacifistic, that's true. We never hold arms in our hand, never. As for violence, oh no, we are educators. Like, we are very, very, like home people, like very tolerant people. And we say, like, what I can do nothing. And this is the biggest mistake we ever make. If you say, I cannot do anything, it means you give up. If you conduct a lesson for a student who is in pain now, emotional stress, and you just help him out to smile or at least to stop crying, you helped. If you see that there is a donation, $1 million. Sure, we don't have $1 million. We're educators. We already are doomed to be poor. On the other hand, right? But you have $1, one hryvnia, one kopecks, I don't know, one penny, and you just donated. Believe me, sometimes it might be that amount of money which lacks. Or, a good doctor who can have that patient who is in pain, and you can just connect them together. And when everyone believes that we can do something, again, we fulfill our educational, vocation. We show a role model to our students.
We show a role model to our students. I love that. I think that in a couple of ways, you've already answered part of the next question that I'm going to ask you. But what I want to ask you about is the importance of English in the context of war. Now, you've mentioned obviously the amazing and invaluable support that you and your teachers are providing for your students. But onto the battlefield, as it were, and other aspects of the war. What is the importance of English in the context of wartime?
Oh, thank you for the question. It's tremendous. The biggest problem which everyone faces that there are a lot of NGOs, a lot of organizations who would like to help, but people who they want to help do not speak language. And physically, they're like interpreter is a good thing, but when the professional doesn't speak the language, it's the huge problem because it's a big obstacle. And for example, when we have medical teams or medical evacuation teams who can go to the east of the country, there should be a devoted interpreter to them because primarily, like a lot of doctors do not speak fluent English. Though the level of doctors' English to be all medical workers' English is really nice, but it's not enough, especially with the doctors who are, for example, in their middle 50s or 60s, who are outstanding professionals. Really, I was surprised. They are outstanding professionals. On the other hand, they cannot share this knowledge or have this professional exchange and work faster if they don't speak. One more thing, for example, like global response management does support of surgical teams. So, for example, American surgeons together with Ukrainian surgeons, they operate in operating theater, and there should be an interpreter all the time. And you can imagine like how much time is lost, for example, when the interpreter doesn't know a word or forgets it, or in shock when, for example, there is an extremity being amputated. Um, because again, we're not taught that in university. Some doctors cannot even like concentrate then. And that is the biggest problem because the processes would have gone smoother when everyone spoke English. Military as well. So it's another topic to discuss because again, we have international legions. We have a lot of outstanding professionals who would like to come and help and teach. But again, there should be an interpreter every time, at every unit, everywhere, just to show it. And we all know poor interpretation can cause a lot of problems because this is a very specific language with very specific topics for very specific people at a very specific time. And that is the reason when we show our students now, not the need, but that English is essential. Like, if you don't know English, world will not speak to you. I had my video recorded on my Facebook page to Russian teachers, and I said like there is no need for you to teach English now to your students because there is no futures. World doesn't speak to you. And to us Ukrainians and to many other countries in the world, this is a lingua franca, right? We need to know it. We need to not to forget our language. No, we need to love our language. But again, there is one language which can absolutely join us together, and in unity is our force. Then we are stronger. So this is where again English shows that it's like your personal hygiene. You have to know it.
Like your personal hygiene. Yeah, I love that. It makes a lot
It's
of
not my
sense. So
saying. That was one of
no,
the
oh, it's not.
politicians, to be
Ah,
honest.
okay. But it's like it's something that's so essential. It's an everyday thing, right? Um,
Yeah,
I've also noticed a couple of posts on Facebook about people, soldiers, Ukrainian soldiers learning English as well.
yeah,
So presumably that's important for the soldiers as well to learn English.
sure.
Mhm.
For everyone, to be honest now, because every sphere now has attracted so much attention from international community. And for example, we have one more organization which is called Cages. They are German NGO, and like predominant part of the volunteers who are deployed there, they speak German. But again, uh, we all communicate in English. We have a lot of NGOs which come into Ukraine to help. Again, their native language is, for example, Spanish. Other is, for example, Japanese. But still, everyone communicate in English. And the better the quality of English is, the higher the level, the more nuances you can, get from the conversation. It runs smoother. You can read between the lines, the tones, the manner of speech, because words are not just words. Words have meaning and have context. And when you contextualize it, and like in the matter of any kind of conversation, then it's important. Then the real communication goes, not just like, oh, I understood, like I use my just listening skill. Great. I understood that there are numbers. Super. Oh, they are talking about maths and great. No, this is how everyone needs to now take into account and see all cultural backgrounds and the context of the situation in which the communication happens. In our case, this is war. A lot of topics are very sensitive, but still, everyone now is using a lot of adjectives, a lot of other words which in normal language you do not use or you do not think of using. And now you cannot say a slight conflict, right? As it's war, it's invasion. This is other nouns which have like in their meaning not just like armed conflict. Oh, how they call it? Special operation? No, it means that you cannot play this game of words. You need to know the rules of this game.
It reminds me very much something you're saying of George Orwell's essay Politics and the English Language, whereby some politicians or media, for example, may use words like pacification instead of invasion and things like that. Is that the kind of thing you're talking about as well?
Yeah, a lot. And you can see that in narrative, especially when only the war started. And a lot of like world communities didn't know how to react, right? And we were reading it's like, oh, there is a conflict. And we were like, what kind of conflict? My student just died. It's not a conflict. He was killed
Mm,
while he was running from Shevchenko University
mm,
into the shelter. Like he's not alive. He's not like it's not like the thing you can say like, oh, he doesn't demonstrate signs of life. Oh,
mm,
really? He's not unconscious. He's dead. He's been
mm,
shot. And these are words which are very strong.
mm,
This is just again the example, like how can you use it? Because
mm,
word is your weapon,
mm,
language is your weapons. And when a lot of other people said like, oh, there is an armed conflict, there is not a conflict. Conflict, this is between the husband and the wife at home. What sofa to choose, the color, whether it matches to the wallpaper or not. Or for example, when we had this, God, a very difficult moments when kids were killed. They were killed. They were assassinated. They were not just accidentally gunshot wounded. They were assassinated.
mm,
And that's the difference between killing, murder, and assassination
mm,
because it's different.
mm.
And this is how you cannot play with these words.
Right.
You either name it directly or just don't say anything
Mm,
because it's not normal. And a
mm,
lot of politicians not knowing which party will win. A lot of people who have, as they seem to think, friends in both sides. There is no both sides. That's the problem of international communities because I know that it would be rude, not rude, but really true from my side. Um, a lot of international communities do not know which side to choose because they need to be neutral. You cannot be neutral when kids are raped. You cannot be neutral when your students are killed or anyone else is killed in their hometown, in their homeland. It's not neutrality. You either you it's not like you have to choose the side. You just need to choose the truth.
mm.
And a lot of people are afraid of doing that, and it's okay. But then they just stop saying that there is someone good or someone bad.
Mm. When you mention the word narrative about the invasion, about the war, what you're not talking about is inventing a story, is it? What you're talking about is relating what's
Yes,
happening and the skill, I'm going to put it like that, or otherwise, of relating what's happening. Is that right? Is in successfully relating what's going on social media or wherever.
yes,
Is that right?
absolutely. Because you may see those narratives everywhere, and you can clearly understand who's on whose side.
Mm,
And that is the biggest problem. We clearly started understanding that to understand that, oh God, the source which I was reading for many years was putting in my head this idea, but now in real life, it's absolutely different.
mm,
When you had this narrative, oh, it won't last long, or oh no, someone didn't understand that meaning this way, or the reason, like why it's happening, is this, and this. And this is insane because you live here, you understand what is the reason. It's absolutely nonsense. There is no reason,
mm.
like for these mass killings and for war starting in the 21st century. And you see how people are trying to to take only the information which is comfortable for them,
Mm.
to to turn to the side which is less, I might say, dramatic. It's like let's not dramatize, less emotional, neutral, like in a pastel waltz. It's not happening.
Why do you think
It
that
doesn't solve
is?
the situation. I think that again, I can speak only for myself because again, how many people the same that many thoughts we have. But truth is not comfortable. It's painful. It's without bright colors. Truth is very straightforward. I may say like truth is blunt. In the moment of this word blunt, that is very straightforward. And not everyone is ready to get it. And when, for example, for many years you thought that, oh, like these two countries are always like intense relationships, sometimes they're friendly, sometimes not, and now boom, you have to understand that everything which you were treating as like not serious, in fact, turned out into the scale of like practically Third World War and is happening in the center of Europe. And you have to say that, oh God, I was wrong. People don't like saying that they are wrong. People, I always say, like, it hurts to think. Because when you start analyzing, not reading one comfortable, very user friendly source of information, when you start analyzing, reading, talking to people, getting evidence of what you read, like not just like rumors has it. And when you start analyzing it, it's a cognitive shock because you cannot understand how really it could happen. When we started to reveal truth about Bucha, Irpin, Hostomel, Vasilkiv, all of those regions, but how many are there? of those regions, which I definitely know about, not on news, because it's even more petrifying. And that is the reason world, especially Europe and all other media, they are not like a scary movie like Stephen King, right? They should bring something positive in people's life. And when they start revealing this, it hurts. It's emotionally hurts. You will never be the same when you see it. And that is the problem, why people cannot accept the truth, because it hurts so much.
And people don't want to feel like that, do they? I suppose they want
Yes.
to,
And
be.
it's normal. It's okay. It's absolutely, it's the choice of everyone. Either you are ready or you are not ready. But if you accept it, you will never be the same because you realistically see the world now and you understand that it is not safe like that anymore. I mean, in our context, I'm not talking about like all other European countries, but I know that when you wake up and understand it, they cannot say like, "Oh, I don't want to think about this today. Let me like listen to Adele today." No, you don't listen even to music first days.
Quite. Okay, I'm going to ask you about one of the questions that we discussed was how an EFL professional can make a difference. What I'd like to sort of modify the question a little bit, because I don't know about anyone else who's in the Zoom room at the moment, but perhaps in some contexts, the situation might be that teachers aren't exactly sure how to either communicate what's happening in Ukraine to their students, or if questions come up about it in class, like how to deal with it. So that's sort of part of the same question, really. How an EFL professional can make a difference.
Oh, as for making difference, we make this difference every day by answering questions. And we need to answer those questions absolutely fairly and honestly. And yes, we need to understand that we cannot show for example, a dead man to a 6-year-old kid depicting the war, but we can do it to 11th grader if we know that they are not sensitive enough, or if even they are. Sometimes um, it's very difficult to build a lesson on war, but we had beautiful experience with Tamar Dolidze and with Eva Tatarova and with students from Georgia and with students from Azerbaijan. They really made lessons on Ukraine. They made their research, and that was amazing. Because again, you can sort the information for sure. You have to you want them to look for. And on the other hand, you cannot avoid those topics because, as I said, like we are teachers of English. It means that we speak to the world and we can get any kind of information we need because resources are open for us. It's not like speaking Ukrainian and then you read only news in Ukrainian, yes, or speaking Spanish and you read news only in Spanish, right? Because for many people, is this is only like that, and I caught myself on the thought that for me it's not like the same. The same for you, right? We can read news from all over the world in English. And this is how you, yes, TBL, your students, into the way you would like to learn, you would like to teach them. For example, Ukraine, 5 interesting facts about this country. And again, that's beautiful. Or you may say 5 interesting facts about Russia. Find something in common. And if they start digging deep, they will see that there isn't much in common, to be honest. Or history. Date back to history. You teach past simple, you teach passive voices, numbers, and, for example, historical moments, but nothing about war, which is happening now. But you can build up the whole research on that for 80 lessons, for example, right? The beginning of Kiev Rus, which was Ukrainian, like not even Ukrainian, that was Kiev, the capital of my country. And then the students like keep asking questions. So, but why now? And you say, like, look at the dates. When was Moscow and when was Kiev found? They were absolutely different. And many centuries took Moscow to arise, to be honest. And when you guide them in the moment, to the moment when they start putting questions, it means that the lesson happened, that the educational purpose of the lesson was filled, right? Was reached. It means that they will start putting questions. Okay, so but then why? And you're like, that's the question. Why? Because this is the only question which pushes learning and teaching at the same time. Why they want to ask, why you would like to answer.
And I,
So again, put up language there, and this is the lesson. This is how you answer the question. Because if we show only our answer, it's only a very subjective, personal based answer. But if you show them where to look for answer, it's better.
and I suppose it also has to do with what you were saying about the language that's used to describe situations as well, as in you were saying, yeah, for example, the word armed conflict just seems to be a very blanket, bland term to hide,
Yes.
like you're saying, child killings, assassinations, rapes, etc.
Yes.
So using, let's say, real verbs, real nouns to talk about, and not, I suppose, not being afraid of that as well. Something that Lana and Irena were talking about was the whole
Yes.
classic
Yes.
parsnips thing, things that one is and one isn't supposed to talk about. I suppose something like this invasion has thrown all of that out the window, hasn't it?
Yes.
And it's now, we've got to talk about real life and not
And
about,
that is,
yeah, go on, please.
please,
No,
please.
no, no.
I'm sorry. Yes, we have to talk about real life. And to be honest, this is the new reality of all English lessons because we all call ourselves as spies, remember, or intelligence office, because I think we know everything about our students based on topics we teach. Family, relationship, favorite food, places to visit, like the best memory, the worst memory. We're even better than the psychologist because they tell this to us subconsciously, right? Because this is the topic of a lesson. Let's talk. And yes, for example, we remember there were three no's: gender, politics, and religion. But why don't we talk about this? We never have these questions on exams. We never had these questions topics to discuss. But in fact, these are three topics which are always discussed. And when we go to educational purpose, there is lack of words to talk about this in a proper way.
You have just hit the nail on the head about something. Sorry, but I really think you just hit the nail on the head about something. If that's not part of a syllabus, if that's not part of a curriculum, then people aren't being taught the language to
Yeah,
express it.
yes. And it's true. And this is the biggest problem. Because now, when we see that the world is changing, and the teacher is not that restrained now, like, put in this frame, only this during the lesson. When we have those beautiful approaches like dogme, or when we are free to use all of our background knowledge and to adopt it into the classroom. When it hurts to a teenager that she broke up relationship with the boy or girl, it hurts, right? And she needs to talk about this. And for example, if she has an English fan friend, she would like to share this, but she can't because she knows how to write, how to say an eggplant and aubergine. Oh, really? I'm not saying that it is not useful. I'm saying that it is not real life language. And sometimes when we have like general English class, right? Language for a specific purpose. When we have CLIL, when we talk about, for example, exam prep. I deal with exam prep for many years. This is my passion, but still I teach my students everything. If they would like to talk today about politics, we talk about politics. And I tell them how to write the left wing, right wing, and party is not just party. Party, this is a political party. And if they would like to talk about this, they have to talk. The other thing, which is very important, we teachers like to teach. And that is the moment. We shouldn't teach what we personally believe in politics, religious, religion, and, for example, gender or sexual background. This is our case, what we believe in, who we sleep with, and what political party we support. And when we keep it in our mind, then the language will be really a live language. It wouldn't be bookish one because it wasn't according to curriculum. Really, curriculum, this is the average for everyone. This is like tests. Those who deal with exams, oh, like I know that you will give me your like sum ups. When you examine a student, you have a certain point, certain framework according to which you have to test. But do we really test his knowledge of English? No, he is either lucky to get the question he may demonstrate his language, or he might not be lucky to get the language the question he would like to talk on. The same happens with Cambridge exams, Pearson ones, and IELTS. But this is again, I can talk about this endlessly. So again, what is in the book, this is only the minimum which the student needs to know.
Mm.
And if they put up a question, for example, I would like to talk today, or I had a question, um, I went to church today and I would like to discuss it, like, or any holiday or anything. What do we know? Holy Morning, a priest, a church, temple, that's it. But for example, if they would like to talk about some words from Bible, just not asking your opinion about this, but they would like to express it. They are interested in this. And we say like, oh no, I'm so sorry, I'm not supposed to teach you this. So what are we doing in a classroom?
So it's said, for example, that there's a common core of vocabulary that comes from corpus data, but then
Yeah,
that is selected and put into books. But if that
yes,
is the only language that's getting taught, again,
we are in a big trouble.
it's turning a bit 1984, isn't it?
Yes.
A
Oh,
bit.
yeah. Yes, that's going to be just bookish. And that's it.
Yeah. Listen, I'm going to ask you another question.
Sure.
If have you got time, Natalia? Is this okay?
It's okay.
Fantastic.
I have a day off today.
All right. Let's
If
carry on.
everyone not tired.
Let's carry on for it because there's a question I want to ask you from the chat box, and there's something else I'd like to ask you as well. Magda Zamorska, I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing your name well. I'm just going to stick this question in the chat box again so that you can see it. Natalia has said, right, any practical tips for dealing with student trauma, especially the younger ones?
Well, that's the biggest problem now. And I might say that, first of all, we always need to listen, not to talk. And sometimes when we talk about younger students, we remember that they are not that good at expressing their emotions, especially when it's not their native language. So this is where an English lesson should become not should like shouldn't become like this uh, communicating with the psychologist. It should be just talk to a friend. And especially with younger children, they became more alert. They became more nervous. They became more I might say, psychologically not stable, because if you think that they do not feel anything, it's not true, or that they do not understand anything, it's not true. They are in the biggest threat because they are dependent on their parents, and they think that we know what to do. And when you are in a classroom, for them, you stop being a teacher of English. You became an adult who knows the answer when this nightmare gonna finish. And I might say that what teachers do in a classroom, if you see that something is wrong with the student, you need to not ask what happened. You just need to foresee possible options of what might have happened and provide with the words. You may say, okay, so, oh, let's talk today about angry bear and a good bear. If they are young children, right? So like, what would you like to say to a good bear, or what an angry bear could respond? And through the game, you could see like what emotions the kid is finally feeling. One more thing is about painting, but I think, or drawing. I think everyone knows this approach, right? So choose the colors which you would like to use today, or what do they symbolize to you? Like, what do you when I see yellow, I think of sun. What do you think? When I see black, I think of my black T-shirt. And you may ask what the students feel about this. You may ask them to paint anything they want during 2 or 3 minutes. Or for example, when you teach them for young learners, remember they have a lot of pictures, especially like a lot of paintings. You may say, okay, what would you like to change in this picture? Does it look the same as where you are now, or what does it look like there? And through this, you just make notes. So these topics are sensitive, do not ask. These topics are okay, you may ask, and then you talk to parents. Because usually parents do not see it. We are all at work. Even we teachers, we are the worst parents ever because we don't spend much time with our kids. We spend our time with other people's kids. And that is the moment when we talk about their trauma. You shouldn't like push all the time when you know that it is there. You have to put maximum on something else at the same time, like keeping in background context dealing with that trauma. And if you see that the student has big problems, you always need to talk to parents because you are not a professional psychologist. That is the moment. On the other hand, you need to make your students' lessons less stressful as possible. Don't be pushy. Don't go according to curriculum. If they would like to listen to music today and talk about the song, let them do it. Or always ask them, give them the option of choice. Okay, so we may watch a video, listen to music, or read an interesting story, or I may tell it to you. What do you choose? In fact, in this way, you artificially create the illusion of choice. On the other hand, you give them this right to choose because now students have lack of this choice. They are stuck in a country at war, or they are stuck in a relatively safe country but not home. And it was not their cautious choice. That was the choice of their parents. And that is the biggest problem. They do not have options to choose. So let them create during the lesson at least.
Thank you. So it's also about making sure, yeah, that they have a choice and they feel like they have agency in the situation. What they're doing does actually make a difference to their learning in a situation where something
Yes, they are.
outside and inside the classroom, something's been forced upon them. Let me put it like that. I want to ask you something else now about, it's connected obviously to teaching and narrative, like we were talking about earlier, narrative in terms of expressing feelings about the invasion, feelings about the war. Sorry again if I'm not using the right words for everybody. That's what comes to mind at the moment. But there's been quite a lot of social media posts over the last few weeks that have mentioned some things about Russia, for example, not specifically about Ukraine, but obviously yes, but about Russia. And one of them that I've noticed that I'd like to ask you about is one that is talking about Russia being a terrorist state. And I wanted to ask your opinion on that, but as regards narrative, as regards who sees that, etc. I'll put it to you like that, the question.
Thank you. And thank you very much for putting up the question. Because they are terrorists. Recently in Vinnytsia, we had this attack where more than 23 people were killed. Kids were killed. A 4-year-old girl was killed. We talked with Irena last night, a night before, right? I'm messaging about the minute of silence for everyone, and I would like to have it now because that's important. So, if you allow me, I would like to have this minute of silence to all of those souls who are now in heaven or in any other place everyone believes in where our souls go. for those kids who were killed, for those women who were raped, and men who were assassinated in front of their kids, and all of those people who are now in concentration camps by Russians. And this is the terrorist state of not only a man being a terrorist. And I'm not afraid of this or not saying that all Russians are good or bad. Everyone who waits silently, chooses the side of being neutral, in Russia, I mean, uh, they are terrorists. And these deaths are on their souls and on their nation. So I would like to have 1 minute of silence for those people who will never see the sunrise again.
Of course, Natalia, let's go ahead.
Thank you very much to everyone. And yes, it's a terrorist state. Like normal people cannot kill people in trade centers. They cannot launch rockets on maternity houses. They cannot launch rockets onto train stations where civilian people are waiting to be evacuated from their home. They cannot throw bombs on theaters with the name of detail, like children, signs showing that there is no military. They cannot like rape women and kids. It's not normal. Like it's not animals. They cannot like launch into educational establishments, and as Irina wrote, right, in Mykolaiv, two universities, one of which was a unique university, like it was only one in Ukraine, and uh, because it's not normal, like there is war. We all understand there is war. There are soldiers from both of the sides. There are armed forces from both of the sides, but not civilian people. Like not houses of my friends being destroyed, no trade centers where people, usually these are men, like not even men, but women and kids are just going to buy something, uh, because that wasn't an accident. This accident cannot happen more than 1,000 times. 72 rockets cannot be accidentally, somehow by someone's mistake, launched into one city, because that's a terrorist thought of keeping everyone in fear, civilians in fear, to beg for mercy from a terrorist. And it's not a Stockholm syndrome which might happen in Ukraine. Oh no, this would be the hatred, which is not absolutely common for Ukrainians as a nation. And this is the emotion which my son already has. Though, like, though I don't want him to feel like that. And for example, this Lisa, 4-year-old kid, like a girl who's Irana is writing about, uh, her mom can't be on funeral because she's in intensive care unit. She cannot be present while her daughter has been buried. It's not normal when parents bury their kids. And as for statistics, this is a nonsense because the cost of this war could have saved cancerous kids, orphanages, like built Russia in a great way, to be honest. Because It's not okay when soldiers from any other, like, let it be contrary part, who came to another country, let it be at war, steal things, like rob houses. Like, it's not military operation. This is just like, a big robbery of the country. And this is just uh, not normal, especially as educators. They raise the nation of slaves. Teachers are usually who? We are people who teach students during 11 years. They see us more often than their parents, right? And we put seeds of critical thinking, we put seeds of, these grains of future questions the students will ask when they think, right? And when the teachers teach their students the vision of Putin of the situation in Ukraine without giving any right to a kid to either ask a question or criticize or to oppose or to have follow-up discussion, I think this is the biggest crime ever. Because raising a nation of slaves incapable of thinking, that will result in, when in 10 years, that's the whole generation of people disabled to think without taking any, like, or giving any right to future generation to choose. And that's a total insane. This is why we have this in our country now. We have this war because several generations were grown in hatred to everyone in the world, to opposing to everything which is not the same way they think. And we want them to understand. They are incapable of understanding because this function wasn't raised in their heads. You cannot ask something from a nation which doesn't know how to think. And I'm not really very sensitive or to them because it's not right. That's not, I might say, not their fault, but this is the way how they were reasoned. And that is, again, that shows the importance of education of every teacher in the classroom, regardless the subject they teach. We
I,
raise the nation.
somebody, and I'm afraid I don't remember who they were, in the interview with Lana and Irena in the chat box in Zoom, said somebody with a teacher, somebody who had a teacher started this invasion. So what you're saying absolutely connects with that as well.
Yes.
Now, so a couple of things, one of which is very interesting for me, what you've just said about terrorism. When we talk about terrorism in this context, maybe in every context, we're talking about not something that seems connected with a lot of people's idea of like 9/11, for example, if I can put it like that, but we're talking
Yes.
about a population being made to feel scared every day, right?
Yes.
Not military targets, but purposely attacking civilian targets to make a country feel scared and
Mm-hmm.
presumably isolated as well.
Yes.
Okay, oh, that's not okay, but no, I'm understanding at the same time. Some people might say, and I have seen some posts on social media saying that maybe this isn't the will, as it were, of, and you've kind of in a way already answered this question. I'm going to put it to you anyway. It's not the will of all Russians. Perhaps it's the will of the government, and the people are, either oppressed or they don't really know what's going on. And I'm talking about the Russian people now. What do you think about that?
Well, it's a very controversial question, to be honest. And I might say that, to be honest, everyone is guilty. And you may agree or disagree with me, because, again, there are comments of they are afraid to talk, but every government is chosen by someone, the same as every soldier is told by a teacher. And for example, in the, like in Ukraine, everyone knows we are, like, as this tensed relationship with our government. If we don't like it, we say no, we have Maidan, and they go away. If we don't like something, we are, like, this good wife. We first think, okay, maybe this is our fault as well. Then we said like, no, stop. And we have Orange Revolution. We don't like it, we go and protest. And we are not afraid to be killed. We have this heavenly 100. Those people died for our truth, but it didn't stop us. We are not nation of slaves, and if we don't like it, we change it. And this is our common responsibility. This is now we are in at the biggest war ever happening in the territory of Europe for centuries after the World War II. And we are not afraid that this is the country of we are fighting with is 144 million people and we are only 38 or 42. We don't care because we will fight to the very last person who lives in this country. And the terrorist state will never make us afraid because I stay here. I see people all around Ukraine. We are tired. We are exhausted. We are lost in somehow, but we do not put our weapons down. As for Russia, and they say, oh, there are some good Russians. Every person is some kind of good or bad. But if for 30 years they were not tolerated, they were repressed, they were put down, and they didn't do anything about this. This is just only think 144 million of people, the biggest country in the world, and they were suppressed by what? Duma deputies or a president? Or really? Who like they don't have even so like that kind of police number of people serving if they just stand up and talk. This is their cautious choice to live in that kind of country. And if I don't like the country, I move away. And even those Russians who move away, I cannot speak for them. I'm saying for those who stayed. If you live in this country, it means you accept it. The rules, the way how to behave, the way how to live. And silently you support it. Even if you say, oh no, I'm afraid. Oh really? How many people died in Ukraine during Orange Revolution, during our Maidan Revolution? Because we said no. And we didn't have any support. And people were assassinated in the Maidan Square by Ukrainians. But we didn't stop. So this is the difference between us and Russians. And I will never say that I feel sorry. I used to feel sorry before the day when my ex-colleagues in Russia started teaching like the vision of Putin of the situation in Ukraine. This is the day when they just stopped existing to me and to everyone as well. So everyone is guilty, and this is the biggest thing. If they don't like it, stand up and talk. They will not kill everyone. They will not assassinate their own nation. If the president gives the order, the soldier has the right either to be killed and not to be on duty. Or just if we say like, okay, the pilot had the order, yes, but this is he who presses the button and rocket flies, not the president who sits. And if he, for example, misses the target and shoots it in the field, he will say like, oops, that was a mistake. But he would have saved the life of that 4-year-old kid, the raped women who were bleeding deadly in front of their kids, those men who couldn't protect their families because they had their arms tied in their backs and headshot. So that were soldiers, the nation, the people whose wives are sitting home and wearing those clothes of dead people who are not there anymore. So I'm not sorry for saying that, yes, they are all guilty. And this is my very subjective opinion.
And all of those people have or had teachers at some point as well, incredibly. Yes. And one of the things that you're saying is that it's not only propaganda coming from a government saying this, you should think like this, that, or the other, but as Oksana has put in the chat box as well, silence supports terror.
Yes, that's true.
On the situation. Well, look, I know you and I didn't originally talk about any particular time of the interview, and we've been talking for an hour and a half, which has been incredible. I think what I'd probably like to do, given the time though, is possibly wrap up by asking a question that Flora Klarfeld put in the chat box a little while ago, and I'm going to repost it now. How can, and obviously answer this in any way that you see fit, how can we make sure that students or teachers are not blinded by hate and instead hold on to hope? In some ways, in many ways, I feel like you've answered that, but I'll put the question to you in any case.
Thank you. That's a great question. Thank you again. Because yes, remember as I said about those very three sensitive topics, we always are people who set the example of behavior in a classroom. And no matter how strongly you hate or support some of the sides, it's up to you. This is your personal thing, as if what kind of breakfast you have in the morning. Teacher's role in a classroom, which is the most important, is to give hope that the student will learn the lesson, that the student will come home and be positive and happy with the lesson, that the student will learn even one word. But if he learns it, it means that the process of education happened, right? Learning process happened. And it's very important, regardless of the topic, regardless being sensitive, you have to be very objective, because at work, let's call it like this, you are on duty. You are like a doctor. You can never harm. You should never harm. Because a student, this is the person who may not agree with you, who needs to have, I really want to put that modal, semi-modal, needs to have their own opinion. They cannot follow blindly the thing you think is right, because you don't know what's right. And especially on the topic of wars, on the topic which are very sensitive, religious, let it be politics, anything, you need to provide the right questions the students needs to ask, and then leave the right for them to decide what they really think about this. And we always need to remember, we shouldn't teach our opinion. We should teach language as the means of communication, as the source of knowledge. But that is it, where our educational purpose stops. What kind of people, what things we think is only ours. And we need to raise the nation, the people, the students, multi-language, multicultural students, with the ability to think and not to be afraid to express their opinion. So we always need to give hope and to give a right to choose and to show them how to think critically, and not to be afraid if someone doesn't agree with them, especially when it's an adult, because psychologically you are higher than they are, and you need to show that it's okay to think not the way I do.
That's the thing, isn't it? Because that's about a power relation. And then we can transfer that as like a metaphor to a civilian or a citizen standing up to a state as well. Again, there's a power relationship there as well. And we shouldn't be afraid of asking those questions. Natalia, I just want to show you something. I've written down here all these timestamps on the video. Wow. where I want to quote you of the things that you've said. So I'm going to be putting those on social media after this interview is finished. I'm not quite sure how to wrap this up, to be honest. It's been amazing, emotional, and enlightening apart from anything else. And I feel like, you know, whatever adjectives I use are going to be slightly vacuous, but thank you is all I'm going to say, Natalia. Thank you so very, very much for what you've done. I'm going to switch to gallery view for a second. I don't know if those of you would like to turn your cameras on and, well, give a little round of applause to Natalia, because that was wonderful. Thank you so very, very much for everything over the last hour and a half, Natalia. Listen, we will obviously stay in touch. All of us will stay in touch. And so that you know, Natalia and everybody else here, so that you all know, we are going to have another interview very shortly in a couple of weeks' time, which I'm going to be publicizing very soon. And Natalia, it would be great if it's okay with you in the near future for us all to hear from you again, if you feel okay about that.
Oh, that's amazing. That's a great honor. And as far as I know, the person who you're going to be interviewing is absolutely amazing. Thank you very much. And sure, anytime at your service, if something I said really touched you and was appropriate to you and really put some light on my beautiful country, because we have a lot of people here, teachers, we have people who are under occupation now, so who are Victoria Mechitalo, we have Nastya Patarokina, and those people are now living with Russians wall by wall in my country. And these are real heroes, to be honest. And thank you very much for joining us. Thank you, all the international teachers who are here now. Um, Thank you for your time, just devoting, and thank you very much, really, for just like hosting me today here and giving me room to talk. Thank you.
The honor and the pleasure is all ours. I can speak for everybody here who's been here since the beginning and who's come back again as well. We've actually got, I've just noticed, we've actually got more people here than we did at the start of the interview. So that just tells you something, Natalia. Okay. No, I was thinking as we were talking, it would be great to, one of the reasons it would be great to see you again, apart from it would be great for all of us to see you again, is also a lot of the, we've talked about quite a mix of things today, but it will also be great to focus on maybe, I don't know, teacher training for younger learners in this situation or something like that. But anyway, we'll talk about that and we'll see what we can do.
Any topic. Yes.
Great. Thank you, Natalia. Thank you, everyone, for being here.
Thank you.
And we will see you next time. And I will put the video up as soon as it's processed, everybody, okay?
Thank you.
All right.
Be safe and have a great day to everyone, and calm and peaceful heaven for Ukrainians as well. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye for now. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.